The month of May is brought to you by Peak and by Drag Racing Bracket Bonanza. Join thousands of other players and compete for unique prizes as you try and guess the perfect bracket at every NHRA national event. Join for free at the link below. The Indianapolis Grand Prix is officially over. We are done going that way on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as come Tuesday. Hopefully, if it's dry with any luck, we're going to be going that way towards turn 1 heading southbound on Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is Mighty Mac on YouTube. Let's get straight into the results so that way we can get to our interviews as well as our outlook on what's going to happen throughout the month of May. Obviously, the big story going into this was all the engine failures really that happened during the practice sessions. Practice 1, you had 2 Hondas go out with Graham Rahal and Marcus Armstrong. Then in warm-up, just when you think, oh, it's just a Honda issue, a major engine failure for Palou Ward. From what we were told, something shot straight through the block and out of the engine cover. It caught on fire just outside oval turn 2. They towed it back. When you got back to there and you're next to the car, you could smell the oil off that car with how much it burned. They had to do a full engine replacement. Did the same thing to Alexander Rossi. I asked the crew member what that was about. He didn't know anything about the Palou Award deal because he didn't go near it. But from what they understood, the reason for the Alexander Rossi is because it had similar mileage to Palou Award's current engine at the time. So they wanted to take precautions to make sure they didn't have the same outcome. So both cars had engine replacements before the race. So now that's 2 Hondas and 2 Chevys with engine replacements as we're not even on day 1 of the Indy 500 practice. What do you make of all this? Because even Alex Palou almost lost the motor too during this race.
Yeah, it was reported that his car was smoking during it. I didn't catch if Alex said anything on my side, but no, so here's the interesting thing. Don't really take it with a grain of salt looking into what's coming forward, really, because when it comes to Indy 500 practice and the race itself, those are all separate motors. That's all different allocations compared to the rest of the series, including here on the IMS road course. But yeah, reliability was definitely a question. I know some of the engines that we saw go yesterday were reported to be brand new ones, and then I guess the mileage, these were pretty close to being mileaged out, or they had quite a bit of mileage on them. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. 2 Chevys, 2 Hondas, well, 1 preventative Chevy. That's, you know, something that you don't really see too much in IndyCar racing across an entire season, let alone the same weekend.
And as for the race itself, it was pretty much straightforward, what we've come to expect with the Indianapolis Grand Prix. It was green most of the race. You had that one miracle caution. It was Luca Ghiotto, who lost a motor, or no, he spun out at the, I believe, turn 8 and 9 part of the circuit. That brought out our one and only caution of the race. You thought maybe it would change things up. It didn't. It was a pretty straightforward run to the end. The only time it got interesting, as usual, was on the start. You saw a major contact that took Felix Rosenqvist out of contention. You saw contact between Colton, Herta, and Marcus Ericsson. Colton Herta had some very choice words from Marcus due to that incident that I can't repeat, but he said on NBC. So major beef already brewing within the Andretti camp, and the beef that continued from Romain Grosjean and Santino Ferrucci. He told me back after warm-up that it wasn't going to happen again. That was a lie. He booted him off of turn 13, ended up breaking his car. We'll get to how his race ended in a minute, but regardless, chaotic start, pretty standard course IndyCar race at this racetrack.
You know, whenever you cover a pro stock motorcycle, you always say death, taxes, and Gage Herrera. Well, when it comes to Indy road course, it's death, taxes, and Ganassi versus Rahal.
Or Will Power if it's 2016-17.
Or Will Power mixing in for third, but, you know, up there. I mean, here's the thing. Outside of 2021, it's been a pretty milk and toast time period for IndyCar on this road course. It doesn't provide a show that you could say is terrible, but it's not the best thing on the calendar. You know, it's here as kind of a filler race. But in truth, you know, it is still always fun to be here at the Speedway for a race.
To each their own. So let's jump straight into the results. Obviously, looking at the results from today's race, Alex Palou, repeat from last year. He is back where he was at the start of May of 2023. Won the pole for the Grand Prix. I believe he qualified, second in the Grand Prix last year, and then ended up winning that race by dominating every lap. Almost the same result this year. Alex Palou started on pole. Christian Lundguaard got the jump and took the lead for the first half of the race. Around the second round of pit stops, it got jumped, but that was about halfway where Alex Palou got in front of Christian Lundguaard. Alex Palou had the traffic play on his favor, took off. He was gone for the rest of this race. Will Power second. Christian Lundguaard rounds out your podium. Scott Dixon in fourth, and a career best finish for Marcus Armstrong in fifth.
And Marcus Armstrong, we talked about this yesterday, was one of those cars that had an engine failure yesterday in free practice 1. And here's the thing about Marcus Armstrong. He is very quiet, but he's very good. He is a absolutely decent driver. You know, he deserves his place in that number 11 car with Chip Ganassi Racing. And I think he continues to show that, and he continues to get better. So it's only a matter of time before we really see that 11 car pull into victory circle somewhere, somehow.
And then finishing off in sixth position, Scott McLaughlin. You had a fourth, fifth, and sixth, all New Zealanders. Colton Herta, probably the best driver of the day. Starting position back in 24th, he ran it all the way up to 7th, and he took no prisoners when doing it. A little argy-bargy through the entire field, all the way back up into the top 10. He came in here with the points lead. He lost the points lead, but he really minimized the damage that was done because of that. Alexander Rossi started 7th. He finishes 8th. Graham Rahal, we talked about it yesterday, 8th and 9th positions for Marcus Armstrong and Graham Rahal in the qualifying, both top 10s. So a very strong result for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. And then Felix Rosenquist started 10th and finished 10th, but that does not tell you the story of what that man went through. By the end of lap 11, he was second to last, and he had to work his way to get all the way back up for a strong 10th place finish to kick off the month of May.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked to Felix yesterday, and he seemed pretty confident in their chances here, considering the history of Meyershank Racing on this configuration of IMS. And you know what? It shows that team is strong here, and they can overcome adversity, especially a lap 1 incident. Something that we don't really talk about much is that the GMR not GMR Grand Prix anymore. It's the Sancio Grand Prix.
Angie's List Grand Prix.
The Indy Grand Prix.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. It is a long race. If you're seeing the stands, it feels like the length of it for sure. But he did do a good recovery for the MSR crew.
Finishing 11th is Kyle Kirkwood. Romain Grosjean with a credible result in 12th after the early incident with Santino Ferrucci at the beginning of the race. Rebounds up to 12th. Pato O'Ward, who had to come in with a replaced motor, complained that the car felt slow. He finishes back in 13th. Pietro Fittipaldi in 14th. Kiffin Simpson with a strong result, gaining 10 spots to finish 15th. Marcus Ericsson, who also got his elbows out a little bit throughout this race, disappointing result in 16th. Joseph Newgarden is going to be probably the biggest talk. Someone mentioned up there, thank goodness for Will Power having a strong result to be able to distract us from the fact that Joseph Newgarden's been having some poor results. I don't think that's the case. Joseph Newgarden, ever since this incident happened with the push to pass penalty, something in his head has not clicked right, and he has struggled either mentally or the team with the loss of Tim Cindric and so forth. This has been a lackluster last 2 races for this team, and heading into the Indianapolis 500 where he is the defending champion, this is not how you want to kick off your month.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Joseph Newgarden, he qualified 4th.
So we had an equally good qualifying result back at Barber too, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so it's not like they were lack of, 1 lap pace and qualifying. Like, he can still set down a quick lap, but piecing an entire 85 lap race together seems to be a little bit of a difficult one. And I don't know. I think the confidence has been shaken with that team a little bit. And watching him on the track, it's just, he was getting passed left and right. And here's something else. Pato O'Ward, too, really struggled with falling back. Like, it seems like he couldn't go forward, only backwards.
And then I believe late in the race, Jack Harvey blocked Joseph Newgarden all the way to the wall. He damaged his left front wing, and that pretty much costed him any chance of having a good result because of that.
Yeah, and also, I guess you could throw this one in here. Every time the Snap-on car runs here in the Indy Grand Prix, it just never does well. So maybe it's the Snap-on curse.
Finishing 18th, Jack Harvey. 19th going to be Teo Porcher, who some people pointed out that maybe Zach Brown regrets calling him early to be the fill-in for the rest of the season when Callum can't. I don't really think so. A very strong finishing for him, considering this is the second race at a track that he has never been to before. This is his only race for the month of May, as Callum Milot, who just won at Spa in the World Endurance Championship for Autosport, is rumored that he's going to be running in the Indy 500. pretty much, I'm going to say he pretty much is, because of the fact that Teo Pourchaire is not yet cleared to run the Indianapolis 500 because he has not done the rookie orientation, and they've already got Callum to do that refresher program.
He hasn't even done the orientation at Texas, which you have to do before you come here to IMS.
Absolutely. And then finishing in 20th is Christian Rasmussen. Started 20th, finished 20th. A disappointing result in 21st for Augustin Canapino. He started this race in 15th. He was top 10 in both practice sessions, practice 1 and practice 2. Disappointing qualifying result. Disappointing race finish. Romain Grosjean finishes higher than him. Kind of the same as last year with Callum Milog going into this race. Outperformed all the way up to this point. You're going to have to see if Augustin could have the same result he did last year and possibly run him back towards the end of the race, or the season, I should say.
Yeah, and I mean, for the Juncos Hollinger team, you know, they're still really trying to find their footing here at the top level of American open wheel racing. They've made lots of progress throughout their last couple seasons here. You know, they're no longer looked on as the smallest team in the paddock, at least entry-wise, because they have 2. But, you know, they continue to build momentum, and it takes time, especially with a team of their resources. It takes time to become a mid-level to low-high level threat for wins, especially when you're going up against the mights of Ganassi, Penske, Andretti, all of those guys who are global operations in multiple series.
Finishing 22nd is Stingray Robb, who had a struggling weekend. I would say he's going to take that result and run with it. Was running at 27th pretty much the entire race, ends up finishing up in 22nd. Tom Blomqvist got took to school. Anytime you saw him on the screen, he's either getting passed, either getting dive-bombed, or either getting boned out of the way. He had a very tough time here today trying to tackle this course and had a lot of off-track moments. He finishes it off in the 23rd spot. Linus Lundqvist ran out of fuel under the caution, ended up going a lap down, finishing 24th. Luca Giotto, who is my driver of the race due to the fact that he brought out our only caution today. Thank you for that. Rinus VK, a very disappointing 26th place finish. And then Santino Ferrucci damaged his car after the incident with Romain Grosjean at the start of the race. Never was able to recover, and then I believe it was a brake bias failure that caused it, and he had to retire at about the midpoint of the race. He finishes 30 laps down, but it will score as a DNF for that team who's had such a strong start to the season. Came here to be 7th in points.
Yeah, for the AJ Foyt Enterprises team, you know, this is a track where they're not willed on to perform well, but where they're expected to because of the history of the namesake of the team. And, you know, the last couple of years, they keep building momentum, and, you know, their road course game has never always been the strongest. However, now that we're going to be going that way versus that way, and hey, maybe Tuesday we spin the camera that way for symbolism, you know. But no, I mean, they've never really had the strongest road course game, but, you know, when we get going the right way, yeah, they'll be fine. And I think Santino will be able to recover what he lost here, considering the fact it's double points.
Same for Will Power, too. Lost his points. I believe he gained it all back and then some here today. I believe he's second in points behind Alex Palou after this race is over.
Who does assume the points lead now from Colton Herta.
Absolutely. So, without further ado, let's get into the interviews, and then let's look forward to the 108th running of the Indy 500.
Protect your vehicle with Peak Original Equipment Technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
Alex, you dominated this race last year, and then dominated Raider.
Sorry, I was like.
You're all good. You dominated this race last year. You dominated the last half of this race this year. Just what is it about this circuit in particular that suits you so well and suits your driving style that allows you to just run away with these races, with like the likes of which we haven't seen since, like, I believe Will Power back in 2014 or 15 and 16?
I don't know. It's tough, but it's one of those races that you're not really limited on tires. On tire deck, so you can just go hard, and it's about the pace that you have. So I would say that last year, May 2023, we had a lot more advantage than what we had this year, but still I think the tire advantage we had at the last 10 on the new alternates that we saved helped us to open that gap. But yeah, for sure, I would say just the fact that we can go 100% just pushing every single lap maybe that's why we see bigger differences.
All right, so that's going to wrap up our Grand Prix of Indianapolis coverage. Thank you guys so much for watching. Before we wrap this up, we're going to be heading into practice on Tuesday. It's supposed to be a lot of rain in the forecast. How aggressive do you think these teams are going to be to want to go out there and get as much track time when there is track time?
Well, here's what makes it difficult. Looking at the forecast as we sit right now on Saturday evening, it's supposed to rain on Tuesday and on Fast Friday. So
it's Wednesday too, am I right?
I think it cleared up for Wednesday, but Tuesday and Fast Friday, at least, we're expecting some sort of inclement weather here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So you have to, and the teams, the engineers have to factor in the fact that they're going to lose track time to do the weather. It happens every single year, but how much and how vital is that? Now, a lot of these teams are coming back with cars that they know that they've ran in years past. Alex Palou is coming back with a car that he ran with in the Indy 500 last year and ran a 235 mile per hour qualifying time and won the pole with. So, you know, how much is known elements versus how much is unknown elements? We
also know that Elio Castroneves is in a new chassis, so is, I believe, Felix Rosenquist, and Tom Blomqvist is going to be running Elio's 2021 chassis that won his 4th Indianapolis 500. So if you're, it was a Dragon Speed chassis. Shout out Ben Hanley. So there's going to be a lot to cover with this. This is going to be very exciting with the chassis decisions going on within there. I believe Pato O'Ward is going to be in a new car because of the fact that he tubbed the old one last year.
The one that has been with Arrow McLaren since when it was Schmidt-Peterson.
So it's going to be a lot to look forward to with these practice sessions coming up, and of course with AJ Foyt Racing to see if they're going to be able to repeat the magic of last year, having 2 cars in the Fast 12. So we're going to have a lot to look forward to. We're going to have a lot to cover, especially on the opening day of practice. So if you like the content that we have, if you like the insight, the analysis that we provide in the interviews, be sure to subscribe today to the channel to not only get your source for IndyCar content for the month of May, but also your National Hot Rod Association NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series content, as we're going to be covering the Route 66 Nationals and of course every other NHRA national event on the calendar. So subscribe today to the channel. Be sure to like down below. Be sure to comment, share the video to anybody you know that wants to get involved in this race, so that way you know what you're talking about when race day comes around. Be sure to follow me on all social media pages down below. Mighty Mac 03 on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, all that fun stuff. And of course, thank you, of course, to our sponsors, Peak Performance, Auto, it's supposed to be just Peak, and of course, Drag Racing Bracket Bonanza, the free game that you can sign up for with the link down below. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and until Tuesday morning, this has been Mighty Mac, and we will see you next time.